Well, hey there, guys, and welcome back. On this week's show, what would you do with a decrepit rocking chair? Well, just over 30 years ago, I bought my wife this rocking chair. It's a glider rocker, and over the years, she has used and used and used this chair. She nursed both of our children in it. Uh, she's recovered the cushions several times, and the chair is just done. It's old, the bearings are shot, it needs all new hardware, etc., etc. We got all new furniture, and my wife is done with this chair. She doesn't want to try to repair it. She doesn't want to have it restored. She's done with it. So what do you do? Well, you know what? You don't want to put it in the landfill. It's maple. It is solid maple, this whole thing. So what we're going to do on today's show is we're going to try to make something out of this. Well, I've got this thing down to bare bones, and I guess the first step in this process is to get the whole thing disassembled and see exactly what kind of usable lumber we have here. So let me get that done, and then I'll show you what we end up with that. And when all the disassembly is done, I end up with this, which is a bunch of maple in different thicknesses and different shapes. So what can we make from this? Well, the first thing we're going to make on today's show anyway is going to be some pens. Well, my wife spent a lot of time in this chair. Both of my children were nursed for over a year in this chair, so it does have some sentimental value. So I thought that I would turn a pen for my wife and for both of my children as a gift and a little bit of a memento from their childhood. So what I have here is a pen kit, and pen kits normally come with some of these brass tubes. These are the inserts that you will glue into your pen blanks or your wooden blanks. In this case, they are 10 millimeters in diameter. You will usually have an end cap, which is what's here in this bag. You will also have the mechanism which makes the pen work. In this case, it's a twist pen, so you'll require one of those. This one has a spring, it has a brass bushing, it has a decorative end with some cats on it, because both of my kids love cats, as well as the nose of the pen, an ink refill, and this here is the center bushing for the pen. Now, in order to turn a pen, what you are going to need, almost every pen kit inevitably needs a bushing set. So the bushing sets are reusable. They look like this, and what they do is they go on your pen mandrel and they serve a couple purposes. For starters, they give a proper center diameter for your pen mandrel to be able to hold the pen blank properly on the mandrel. And as well, they provide a diameter. That is this end here. This outer edge of the bushing is the diameter that you need to turn your blanks to in order to get the pen to be seamless all the way across with no raised edges. So you're going to need a bushing kit. So what do we need to do here in order to turn this pen kit? Well, it's going to start off by cutting some blanks out of the maple from that rocking chair. Well, I have 8 blanks cut from various sections of the chair. And what we're going to do is I'm going to, in the middle of each one of these blanks, I'm going to drill a through hole all the way along the distance here at 10 millimeters in diameter. Yes, I know it's metric on my show, but that's what the plans call for. I actually had to buy a special bit in order to do this. So we're going to head over to the drill press, and in each one of my 8 blanks, because I'm actually making 4 pens here, I'm going to drill that hole, and then I'll show you what to do next. So for those of you wondering, I was using this to drill those blanks, and that is my automatic centering drilling vise. And that basically holds your pen blank securely here so that you can drill it. But if you don't have that, guys, you can very easily, if you have a hand screw clamp, you can put your 2 pieces together, drill a 1/2 inch diameter hole in the center there. And by tightening it, you can very easily hold this as well to drill it. Does a great job, holds it very securely and holds it squarely. So there you go. There's a little bit of a tip there if you don't have the drilling vise. But at this point now, what you want to do is we need to glue in our brass inserts. And for that, we're going to use a medium CA glue. And for these particular pens, there are two different size blanks and two different size tubes. So the first thing I would do is you want to make sure that your tube fits in your hole and that you're not going to run into any issues trying to get it in. This one here is actually a little squished, so I may need to do something with that. And you want to make sure that they fit in cleanly and easily. That one slid in beautifully. And you're going to, I like to use an awl. And I take the awl, place my tube on the end of it, and then we're going to spread our CA glue all over our piece and then insert it into our blank. When you insert it, you want to twist it as you go so that the glue will uniformly coat all around. Okay, and now we can put those aside and let those cure. Well, the next step in this process is to trim our blanks down at the ends. Now, this serves two purposes. Number one, it gets the ends of our blanks flush with our brass inserts, but as well, it squares off the end of the blank to the insert so that when you're assembling the pen, there are no problems. Everything meshes properly. So for that, you're going to need an end mill. Now, guys, you need the end mill that is sized for your pen. So for this one here, this is just a standard 25mm cutter, and it is interchangeable on this mill right here on the actual bit. And the end of the bit here is a 10mm bit to suit our 10mm blanks. So this will also clean out any glue that has spilled onto the inside. Now here's the thing though, you cannot place your blanks into, let's just say, your centering vise like this, and then use your drill press. It doesn't work because both are fixed points. And the whole point of this is for this end mill to go in here. That will now make the cutter surface exactly 90 degrees to the inner tube and trim the top. But if you have this in a drill press, that is now a fixed point. This is fixed, the drill press is fixed. There's no guarantee that this is going in at 90 degrees, and chances are it's going to damage your tube. So this has to be done with a hand drill. Guys, just chuck it up in your cordless drill or your power drill, whatever you have, and you can very easily trim these blanks down to be flush with your tubes. I will give you the piece of advice: take it slow. Do a little bit and then check, do a little bit and check. You don't want to cut too much, because if you do, you're going to change the lengths of your blanks, and that is going to really mess up your final assembly. So get all of your blanks trimmed up and flush, and then we can carry on from there. And once your brass insert is shiny all the way around, you're done. Stop at that point. If you have too much material sticking out, if you've made your blanks extra long, you can trim that off at the bandsaw just to put less wear and tear on your end mill. Well, it's now time to line up our pen blanks onto our pen mandrel. Now, guys, whether you're turning one pen or whether you're turning 10 pens, my suggestion to you is before you cut your blanks to be their length, you place a mark like what I've done here. I've done this on all of my blanks, actually. And what this does is it shows you the mating ends to go together, so that if there is interesting grain in your wood, when you turn the pen and you assemble it, the grain will be continuous on the pen. It just makes for a better looking project. So you want to line up your pieces on your mandrel the way that it tells you in the instruction package of your pen insert. They're all different. So I like to use extra bushings. So this is just a bushing set from whatever turning, I don't know what. It just gives me extra room from the ends of my pen mandrel to my chisel. It gives me a little bit of a buffer zone, and I'm more comfortable with that. So you want to place your end bushing here, and then according to these instructions, the longer barrel goes on first at the headstock, and this smaller section here of our bushing, that is what goes inside the brass tube. So even though this is only a 1/4 inch diameter shaft, because of the bushing, it allows it to ride centered on here. So we'll place our center bushing in, and then our next blank, our shorter blank, according to the instructions, and then of course our end bushing, and then me liking my little buffer, an extra bushing on the end, and then we can just put on our knurled nut and give it a little bit of tightening. And that's it. We are now ready to turn. So let's head over to the lathe. Well, everything is mounted here over at the lathe. We have a live center at the tailstock, and the end of our mandrel, our Morse taper, goes into our headstock. So the very first thing that we want to do, once we're happy with how this spins, if it's spinning true, then we can now turn these, rough them to round. But that's all you want to do at this point. Just get them down to round. And there we go. There are the pens rounded off. Now, guys, something I want to point out here, please, even though this is a small turning, we all know this is a small turning, please wear your face shield. Small turnings can blow out and take your eye out just as much as what a large turning can. So please get a face shield on. But what we're going to do from here now is you need to decide if you want to do any kind of shape. I'm going to do these fairly basic, but I'm going to have them slightly larger in the middle, but then tapered down to the ends of our bushing. Now the bushing ends here, the diameter of these bushings, that is the final diameter of your pen. So you want to turn these blanks to be just a little outside of that, just a tiniest bit, because you want to give room for sanding. So I'm going to get these turned down to the size or the shape that I want, and then we can move on to the sanding. All right, and there we have our turned blanks. They're just a little bit proud, a tiny bit proud of what these bushings are. So at this point now, you want to turn the lathe speed right down, and we're going to give these a good sanding. We're going to go right up to 320 grit on these. I don't think that we need the lower grits like 80, so I'm actually going to start around the 150 mark and work my way up. Okay, and truth be told, I actually took this up to 600 grit. I didn't like the way it was looking once I finished that final grit of 320, and I decided, you know what, I'm going to take it a step further. So I did it with 400 and then 600, and then I used some of the shavings to burnish the actual pen blanks themselves. And if you don't know how to do that, you just get a handful of shavings. You can turn your lathe on, turn the speed up, and then apply your shavings to your blanks. And that helps to finish it off and gives it a really nice little sheen. And you know what, just looks great. So at this point now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn all the rest of my blanks. I'm going to keep these together so that they don't get mixed up for the orientation. And then I'm going to apply a CA finish to all of these pen blanks. Guys, I am not going to get into how to apply a CA finish. I have a video on that on the channel, and I'll post the link to it below. If you're interested in the CA finish, you can check that video out. But I'm going to get these done and the finish on, and then we're going to get into the assembly of these pens. Well, it's now time to assemble the pen. I've put the finish on all of these, and guys, you see a lot of guys using pen presses. And if that's what you want to use, that's fine. I've never owned one personally. I just use a quick grip clamp. You just have to be a little careful, that's all. So we're going to press the end coupler in place first. And when using a quick grip, you need to kind of decide whether or not your piece is going to damage your pads. And this one here might. It's a sharp piece of brass. Chances are that is going to cut this end pad. But I want the rubber pad on the opposite side to protect the wood. So all you need to do is slide this pad off, just like that. And from there, you can just line it up, pull your clamp together, making sure that it's square. You don't want things to go in crooked, just like this. And then compress your quick grip. There you go. And there's our first piece. Insert it into our pen, and then your end cap afterwards will screw in place like this. So I'm going to carry on inserting all of these pieces and putting this kit together. I just wanted to show you about the quick grip clamp here, how you don't need a fancy pen press like some of these guys are saying on YouTube or what have you. So if you don't have one, but you have quick grip clamps, and I think everyone pretty much has some of these, you can easily put your pens together. And there you have it. Turning pens from blanks made from an old rocking chair. Guys, this is not the only project that will come out of the destruction of this chair. And while it may seem like a total waste to some of you that chair got demolished, it lived its life. It was over 30 years old, and my wife was done with it. So instead of scrapping it or getting rid of it, I'm turning it into heirlooms, as these pens will be given to my children this year for Christmas. As you know, it was the chair that they were nursed in for the first year plus of their life. It was the chair that they were rocked in when they weren't feeling well. It was the chair that they were read stories to. So these pens are now a part of their history, and they can carry that on, and they can give that to their children if it lasts that long, etc., etc. It's not that the chair was not usable. It's not that you couldn't have given it to somewhere else or what have you. It's that we were done with it. So why not repurpose it and turn it into something new? Everyone's always screaming about recycle, reduce, reuse. So that is exactly what I've done. Instead of throwing this thing out, I am repurposing it to make some new projects. Now, I guess the process here for putting the pen together, some of you may say, geez, Kenny, I wish you would have shown more of that. Why? This process of assembling this pen is specific to that pen. And unless you're making that exact same kit, the assembly order or process means nothing, because you need to look at the instructions that come with each pen kit to know the specific sequence that these pens go together. So for me to show you how to put together this cat pen will do you no good if you're doing a slimline or maybe I don't know, a cigar style pen. It's not going to help you because it's completely different process, at least for the assembly. The rest of it is pretty much the same, whether it be the turning or the end mill, etc., etc. So either way, guys, I just thought I would bring you along for the ride on this, maybe inspire some of you that if you have maybe those old pieces of wood that may have some kind of meaning to you, maybe you want to turn it into something like a pen. Because I haven't turned a pen in a while, but I got to tell you, this was a ton of fun today. Guys, I want to thank you so much for tuning in this week. It's been a lot of fun. I really enjoyed doing this. If you haven't already, or if you found anything about this show enjoyable or entertaining, why not like and subscribe to the channel? Guys, we've got an amazing audience base here, and I'm hoping that you're going to consider becoming a part of that. I want to thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed the project. I hope you're going to tune in for our future episodes of what else we do with this rocking chair wood. And more importantly, guys, I hope you're going to join me again next week when I bring you yet another woodworking video.